but I don't want to unpack it, is not remaining simple. That is remaining lazy. That is remaining in the point where you're saying, I really don't care. So let's unpack a little portion of what Jesus said. It's like a box trailer that I'm wheeling in here, and we could say, I'm just going to read the passage, and everybody can speculate as to what it means, just like I was going, I wonder what's in there. Or we can open it up, and we can take a look at some of the pieces that are in and go, whoa, what is that for? What do you use that for? So let's go into that passage right now, and let's take a look at let's turn to John 7:37. John 7:37. We haven't got a visual aid for that, and my technician is heading down the hall as fast as he can right now. So, look at 7:37. John 7:37. It says this. It says, in the last day, the great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried, saying, and this is the phrase that I want us to take a look at today, if any man thirst, let him come to me and drink. Now that's not all that he says there, but it would not be kind for me to expound on everything about what he says here. We'd be here a while. So let's just take one little bite of this. If any man thirst, let him come to me and drink. And the last part of what he says is this. This he spoke about the Spirit. So he is making a connection between drinking water and being filled with the Holy Spirit, and incidentally, so that the Spirit can flow out of you to refresh others. So there's the connection. He's doing a word picture here on this. There it is. Yay. This he spoke of the Spirit. First word I want to take a look at, there, I highlighted the words. I got to tell you something else about why I dig into these things. Have any of you heard or know what a rail switch is? Do you know what a rail switch is? Some of you probably do. Okay? It's on a railroad track. You know that railroad tracks, they diverge. One track will go one way, one track go another. Have you ever been in the cab of a locomotive, the engine cab of the locomotive? Guess what there is not in there? A steering wheel. So how does the train get from North Dakota to Duluth, and then there's other trains that get from North Dakota to Missouri? There's no steering wheel. Well, they've got this interesting little thing. It's just a small box. It's very down on the ground. Nobody would even notice it. It's got a little lever on it. It's called a rail switch. That little tiny box can take how many tons is a coal train? It's huge. It's substantial. It's the big thing, right? It's the big thing. But it's that little tiny box that decides which way that big thing is going to go, what the destination of it is. Is it going to end up at Coleraine at the power plant, or is it going to go all the way down to Texas? That little box is what decides. If you take the little lever that's on that and you push it this way, it will go to Coleraine. However, if you take the little lever on it and you push it the other way, it will go to Texas. That is the way it is with what I call rail switch words in the Scriptures. You need to understand that this is not making things too complicated. This is getting us where God intended us to arrive at. If you take a word and you bend it this way, you will end up with a certain understanding of the Scriptures. However, if you take that same word and you bend it this way, you will end up with a totally different understanding of what the Scripture says. Consequently, it will have an impact on how you live, what you believe, where your faith lies. So let's take a look at some rail switch words here. And I'm sorry about the echo. I do not have any control over it. First one that I have is if. If. That word simply means maybe, maybe not. So the first thing that comes along is this word, if any man thirsts. Does that mean that maybe you'll be thirsty or maybe you won't be? Some are thirsty, some thirst, some don't. If you thirst, you thirst. If you don't thirst, you don't thirst. Gives you that idea, doesn't it? Okay, and I don't like that word. I've gone to the Lord many times and said, Lord, I don't like that word if there. Because my bent in my understanding of life with Christ has nothing to do with if. But there it is, if. But I have to couple it with the next rail switch word. So if kind of makes things bent toward taking it to this idea that in Christianity some do and some don't. If you're one of those that do, fine. But I'm not one of them. That kind of thing. And that's a common idea that it's if. But it has to do with thirst. And there's the next word that I want to get to is, it does not say here that if any man is thirsty. Because if you are thirsty, thirst is different than being thirsty. And lots of you are going, I just love Jesus and that's it. Okay? But if you're going to move on in your love for Jesus, you got to understand some things about these rail switch words. Thirsty means you have a feeling for a need for water. It's an unpleasant feeling. It's a terrible feeling, and it drives you and pushes you and motivates you to drink. Okay? And some people have a drive and a motivation to drink of the Spirit, and some people don't have a drive and motivation to drink of the Spirit. How do you like that for doctrine? How do you like that for something to establish your faith on? The word thirst, I had to look it up in a good dictionary. The word thirst does not mean a feeling of need for water. It is the fact of a need for water. A fact that if you thirst, you need water. I have a son that imparted something interesting to me the last time I saw him because I was thinking about these things. He concentrated in medical school on a field of medicine called urology. And that has to do with what happens to the water in your body and the importance of water in your body. A lot of us, it's become more and more aware, but we realize that almost nobody drinks the amount of water that they should. Okay? Now, almost all of us eat more food than we should. Okay, but when it comes to water, and that's what we're talking about here, when it comes to water, almost nobody drinks enough water. And there was a time when I just didn't know about this, is that, I hardly ever feel thirsty. I hardly ever feel thirsty. And there's times in not the too distant past when I didn't realize something about the need for water, is that I would be working on something. I would be putting up firewood, or I would be remodeling part of our house. And you know what? I'd almost black out. I thought, oh no, I'm really sick. What's wrong? I'm coming down with the flu. Have I got limes and all this? And this would happen every once in a while, and I would get, and there was another sign of it too, is I got really cranky. Impatient, really impatient. So there was these things going on, and I was blaming those symptoms on something entirely different because I did not feel thirsty. I didn't feel it. There wasn't a feeling within me that drove me to seek water. Those feelings drove me to seek other things. And I was looking for water I was looking for a cure in all the wrong places. Okay? I was looking for Jesus in all the wrong places. I was looking for the Spirit in all the wrong places. Is what I was doing. As I came, my son, he's probably been after me on this for a long time, but you know how dads are, is that they don't, Last time I was with him, I said, so, Nate, as I was looking at all the water he drinks, and my wife will tell you that how much he drinks at every meal and how much he drinks between meals. He's the only guy I know of, he's the only guy I've actually heard of, but there's probably more than there were before, that actually drinks as much water as is needful to you. I said, so how much water? You're a urologist. You're just not a fitness freak. I didn't even move very much. I should. That's right. Got water? I'm sorry. So I said, sorry, I thought I did, but how much water do you really need to drink? Based on science, based on what was really good for you. He said, 120 ounces a day. You know how much 120 ounces a day is? What? 8 ounces in a cup. Figure it out. Yeah. It's 120 ounces is almost 2 gallons of water a day. Think about that for a second. Do any of us drink the amount of water that's necessary for us to be scientifically healthy? Okay? Do we all, because we're not drinking enough water, do we all feel this horrible thirst that drives us to drink? The reason why we don't drink as much water as that we should is because we don't have a motivating feeling that drives us to drink as much as we should. We are all thirsty. We all thirst, but we don't feel thirsty. Okay? Applying that back to what Jesus said, is that if any man thirst, now can you see that it's not, some people thirst, some people don't. It's more when people thirst. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Let me just give you an example out of just a few chapters later, something Jesus said, verse 32, John 12:32. He says, "And if I be lifted up from the earth, I will draw all men unto me." Everybody knows that, right? If we use "if" as maybe he will and maybe he won't, what do you come up with? How's that for doctrine? How's that something to base your faith on? If I may draw all men to myself, but I may not. But the force of what is being said there is, when I be lifted up from the earth, I will draw all men unto me. It's not a matter of, well, if I feel like it, I will. If I don't feel like it, I won't. That's not the way Christ is toward us, and that's not the way we should be toward Christ, because there needs to be two to tango. I could go on and show you other examples of "if" meaning when, but I'm not going to go any further there. So everyone up there has a need for water, but not everyone feels the need for water. This is what Christ said concerning the Spirit. This he spoke of the Spirit. If you are waiting and expecting and believing that the only time you drink of the Spirit of God is when you feel like it, you are not going to be getting nearly enough of the Spirit that God wants you to, that you were created to have. It's not a matter of if you feel like it or if you don't feel like it. And I just am stirred. Steve has seen me rant and rave in our little meetings on about this thing, is that I'm really concerned about the church that really is overtly sometimes, but subtly many times, saying that this is a matter of whether you have a need, or you feel a need or not. If you feel a need for Jesus, he's kind of like the grocery store. I feel a need to get groceries, to stock up on water and things. So when I feel the need, I go, I get what I want, I leave, and I never even give the grocery store another thought until I feel the need again. That's called consumer mentality. And consumer mentality within the church says is that we use Jesus, we use goods and services to satisfy our needs. And if we feel the need for Jesus, we feel need for this, to be filled with the Spirit, then we go and we do, and we go to the Lord. But if we don't feel the need, it's if, maybe not. Some people do, some people don't. That's a passive attitude that I think is going to cause shipwreck among the saints. David said something in Psalms. I need to read this. I should have put a bookmarker in here. It says, Psalm 42, it says, "My soul thirsteth for God." Okay? For the living God. And then he asks a question. Did you ever notice this? He said, "When shall I come and appear before God? My soul thirsteth for God. When shall I come and appear before God?" I come and appear before God. It's not, my soul thirsteth for God. When is he going to show up and slack my thirst? The question is, my soul thirsteth for God. It's a fact. It's not a feeling. It's a fact. And when is a good question. When do you come and appear before God? The question is more than we currently are. I don't care how much you're drinking I can guarantee you're not drinking as much as is good in God's sight. The reason Nathan is motivated to drink as much as he does is not because he feels such thirst. He knows, because he's a urologist, the damage that it does if you don't drink enough. All kinds of diseases, maladies, and malfunctions happen if you don't drink enough water. All kinds of maladies, diseases, and malfunctions happen if you're not coming and appearing before God and drinking as much as you should. You know what the book of Hebrews says? It says, let us exhort one another daily. If you're drinking well, in our case, we're really radical. We're crazies. 2 hours a week. We're insane. You know, that nobody wants to come because that's too much water. I am fine drinking that little. When shall I come? More than we currently do. Back to our verse, if any man thirst, let him come to me and drink. Here's another rail switch word. If we bend it one way, it bases our faith in one direction. If we bend it the other way, it bases our faith in another direction. The whole cotton picking train will follow whichever way we pull the lever on these little words. That's not making things complicated. That's unpacking the true treasures in the trailer. Let him come to me. I just want to say that there's an order in God, and it has nothing to do with what we do first and second and third in our services. There's an order. We get order when it comes to natural things. I have an old tractor. I love my old tractor. I fiddle with it all the time. I have 3 sons. They're very intelligent men. They won't touch it. They can't get it to run. They gave up a long time ago. They said, we'll find another way. I'm not going to get the benefits out of this tractor because I can't get around. You know why? Because they do things out of order. They approach that tractor out of order. When you approach my tractor, you've got to, first of all, you got to turn the gas petcock on, but you can't turn it too far. Because if you turn it all the way, it's going to leak. So you just, and then the gas isn't going to get to the carburetor. So that you got to turn it just enough. Okay? Well, then the next thing is that there's an ignition switch, little toggle switch there. But it's a little bit loose. So you got to shake it just right. You got to jiggle and wiggle that thing just right. Okay? Right. Make sure that the power takeoff with the hydraulic pump on it is not engaged when you try to start the tractor. If you do things out of order, you're going to get what you want? No. Okay? I could go on and everything, and that's the reason why my sons say, it's too complicated. And I would rather not benefit from the use of that tractor than to try and make the effort to learn the order. And in this here, Jesus sets an order. He says that if you realize that you need to drink of the Spirit, then there's a certain order of doing things so that it actually happens. And this one here is simply this, is that let him come to me. Let him come to me. Does Jesus come to us? Oh, yes, he does, you guys. Yes, he does. It's the good news, is that God has come to us. And there's just such a wealth of scripture about God taking the initiative. God taking the initiative is that it's not us rattling things just perfect and everything, that God comes to us. And that there is an initiation and a grace that means unmerited, that means undeserved, has nothing to do with us. That is a pillar of our faith. It is the truth. I might get stoned for this, but it's not the whole truth. There is more to it than that wonderful truth. I was reminded here of the Song of Solomon. Many of you understand this. You've seen it yourself. It's really cool. Is that the bridegroom, the man, he comes and he knocks on the door of the bedchamber of the one he loves. Knocks on the door, uses Eastern symbolism and all that, but he's basically knocking on the door, and he's calling through the crack in the door, and he's saying, hey, come on, come with me. He's initiating. The Lord initiates. He is initiating. And what is he saying? He's saying, hi, I love you just the way you are. Well, he does love her just the way he is. I mean, he goes on page after page talking about how beautiful she is and everything. But what does he say? He says, come with me. Come with me. Well, the picture is that she's already in bed. And she says, there's some effort I've got to make in order to respond to his initiation. He is initiated. But what's going to happen if she doesn't respond? It takes tool for love to happen. I'm reminded of Oli and Lena. You know the old thing, and it's actually really, really bitter. It's really hard saying, because some of us are in relationships like this. Some of us have watched our parents be in these relationships. Is that Lena says finally, she screws up the courage, and she finally says, why don't you show that you love me? Why don't you say that you love me? Why don't you do things that express your love toward me, Oli? And Oli says, well, I told you once, and if anything changes, I'll let you know. It's a real sad commentary on an assumption within Christianity that says is that Lena has to do all the initiating and Oli doesn't respond at all. How sad. Can that really actually be love? Can that actually be the foundation of God? That God is always pursuing and we are always going, That's a heartbreaker. That's a heartbreaker. That's not good love. That's not agape in there. There needs to be a responding back and forth. And in this one here, it's the bride gets herself out of bed, puts her shoes on, opens her door, and goes out looking for her love. Seeking the Lord is what it's called. Did she seek the Lord because she was so fired up? No, she was in bed. I'm tired. I'm cold. I got a lot of excuses why I shouldn't. This is a bad time, Lord. This is a bad time for you to come and say, let's be together. This is a bad time. But there was a need for her to do so. So the order in this one here is, again, yes, the grace of God is expressed in that there is an initiation by Him constantly. But there is, if love is going to be fulfilled, a response that we personally need to make to His initiation that He is constantly calling. But He doesn't use a feeling to motivate you toward Him. Okay? Those of us that have been married a while, if we were still loving one another based on feeling, we understand this in the realm of the natural. We need to understand this in the realm of the spiritual as well, is that there is a two-sided thing that needs to take place. You need to come to the Lord and drink. To expect that He is going to come to you and make you drink is the next word that I want to take a look at here. Oh, let Him come before I go on there. Again, I need to explain. What is the word come? It's a present continuative verb. And all of you say, that's it. I've had enough of you. I hated English when I was in school. I don't need to listen to it here. The word come is a verb that means that you act. But it's a present continuative, which means it has the force of meaning of come and keep on coming. I came to the Lord once, and that's what I base everything on. See? And I will tell the old story until I go to glory. There is something more involved in this. There is a coming. Yes, you came to the Lord once. Is it over? Do you have all there is when you came to the Lord once? No. It was good that you came to the Lord once. Come and keep on coming. It's a present continuative that we don't see in English. All right. Come and keep on coming. The next word is drink. In 1 Corinthians 12:13, Paul says that we've all been made to drink of the same Spirit. You know the passage. We've all been made to drink of the same Spirit. This he spoke of the Spirit. So we're talking about we're talking about the same thing here. The word made there is just a horrible word. I didn't put it down in the notes here in that particular one, but the word made to drink. You talk about a rail switch word. If you've been made to drink, I'm taking that rail switch and I'm going to say the word that's used in 1 Corinthians 12 is we've all been made to drink. We're taking that and we're putting the rail switch, we're putting the lever over here so that the whole train of our doctrine says is that Christ makes us drink of the Spirit. How do you like that for doctrine? Where's the Christ makes us drink? But the word really is, if you make someone to drink, what is that? Yep, I'm asking you flat out. What is it if you make Nehemiah to drink?
I think the word made there implies the process by which God encounters us to drink. It's not like taking I just don't think it's quite like you're totally saying.
Okay, I'd need more basis for that than just I don't think or I don't feel. Okay? Force. Right.
drink,
Right.
but he also gave me the ability to drink, which was making me drink.
That's where we would have to go different ways. You're pulling it this way. I'm pulling it this way. And it's a real small thing, but it has a big consequence on who we think God is. On who we think God is, right there. Little thing, big consequences. If it really means he made us to drink, in our culture, you know what, if you make someone to drink, that's called waterboarding. It's a crime. It's a crime. It's a crime if you make someone to drink. Okay? I don't think you do that with Nehemiah. You don't make him drink. It's good for you. You need to drink more. Quit struggling. If you look a little more carefully into that word made there, you'll find out that the word is actually, when it was originally written by Paul, it's given to drink. If I give someone to drink, that's an act of kindness. If I make someone to drink, that's an act of violence. Okay? And so what we have here is that...
That's for the record. That's exactly what I was saying.
Okay, thank you. We're just...
It appears that it's making you to drink, but it is actually giving you to drink. That's where we really differ, because the source, everybody publicly knows that I stand very strongly in election. So
Yep.
so that's
Yeah. And what we have, especially in our discussions together, we have two wings of one airplane. Is that his vision is really very much taken up with the thing is that it's all God. And my vision, and I'm not, it's a good, perfectly good wing, but there's many sides to the grace of God. It's just not that is only part of grace of God. I am talking to you about this side that says is that we have a part in this. And that's a perfectly good wing of the plane too. And so when we come to drink, it's a given to drink. He offers us to drink. We can drink or not. That's as far as the if goes. You can drink and you can't. But it's not a matter of I'm waiting for him to make me drink. Yeah, that's a good way, both physically and spiritually. That's right. Did you hear what Chris said? He said he created us to drink. And I think that's really good. This word, again, is a present continuative verb. It means you don't come to Jesus and drink just once when you get saved. It means to drink and keep on drinking. Paul says it in 1 Thessalonians. He says, be filled with the Spirit. That's another example of a present continuative. It does not mean you got filled and now you're filled forever. Is there doctrine about that? Yes, there is, but it's not all there is. There's another aspect of our faith that says is that you must continue to keep going to Jesus and drinking. If you're going to be that which he created us to be in our inner man as well as in our outer man, there is some verbness going on. Verb means the action. There is not a passivity that says, he knows where I live. If he's got anything for me, fine. If he doesn't show up, I got other stuff to do. And that's the thing that I want to exhort today. It's not that there's anything in this that you don't know already. I just really want to point out that there is in the let us draw near an us in there. We have a part in it. if we don't do our part in it, where's the love?